They say power doesn't change a man, it just reveals who he truly is. Well, with him, it didn't just reveal, it bled. It bled into every single corner of his life, staining everything and everyone it touched. Go to any barangay, any small neighborhood, and you'll hear his name whispered. Some say it with fear, others with disgust. A few, the ones who've benefited, speak with a twisted sort of respect, as if he's a god of fortune who can make dreams come true with just one phone call. But most people tell their stories in hushed tones, like prayers uttered in a dark, empty chapel, because they know even the walls have ears when it comes to him. This politician, this man who glides through the streets of Metro Manila in his fleet of bulletproof SUVs, is the kind of figure that makes you look at the country and wonder how it ever stands a chance. You've seen his face. It's plastered on giant billboards every election season, beaming a smile that promises to care for the poor, the workers, the victims of the latest flood. But the moment the cameras turn off, he's laughing at the very people who carried him to victory. He is untouchable, and he knows it. His day doesn't start with an alarm clock or the sound of roosters. It begins with the low, menacing purr of imported engines. Before the sun even peeks over the horizon, a convoy of luxury vehicles is already lined up outside his mansion, tucked away in one of Manila's most exclusive, heavily guarded villages. The guards stand like statues, holding rifles that cost more than an average family earns in an entire year. Inside that mansion, life unfolds like a telenovela that no one would ever dare to film. His wife, a former beauty queen who traded her crown for a life of socialite status, has mastered the art of pretending. She pretends not to notice the other women. And, oh, there are other women. Mistresses are scattered across the city like expensive ornaments, in high-rise condos in BGC, Makati, or Tigas. Each one is set up with an allowance fat enough to last 3 lifetimes. It's an open secret, the kind of juicy gossip laughed about over glasses of expensive whiskey at private, members-only clubs. He'd take one mistress to Boracay for a weekend getaway, another to Palawan for a dive trip, and maybe a third to Hong Kong for a shopping spree. And the wife? She never leaves. Why would she? The money pours like fine wine, and she bathes in it, even as her dignity slowly rots away. And then there are the children. If the father is corruption made flesh, the children are chaos personified. His eldest son is a legend in the bars across Makati, for all the wrong reasons. He's usually drowning in alcohol by midnight, itching to start a fight with anyone who dares to look at him the wrong way. Rumors, dark and persistent, swirl around him about a hit-and-run incident. A poor tricycle driver left lifeless on a dark road in Quezon City. They say there were witnesses, but their words were silenced before they could even take a breath. Police reports mysteriously vanished. CCTV footage malfunctioned. By the next morning, the son was posting photos of himself laughing by a resort pool in Batangas. The daughter, barely 20, is no better. Photos of her, high on designer drugs at wild parties, circulate in private group chats. But instead of shame, she flaunts it. She throws even wilder parties in luxury condos, a middle finger to the world. And the youngest, still in high school, struts through the hallways like a little king, bullying classmates and reminding everyone who will listen, "My father is the boss. You can't touch me." This family walks through the world as if rules were written for other people. Because for them, they were. Money is their shield, their armor, their get-out-of-jail-free card. And where does all this money come from? It's not some old family fortune. Everyone knows. It comes from every cracked road in the provinces that was never properly fixed. It comes from every flood control project that failed the moment the first heavy rain poured. It comes from every single overpriced hospital bed bought during a national emergency. The entire system is their personal piggy bank. Those public bidding processes for government projects? It's all a show. A theatrical performance for the public. Behind the scenes, contractors line up with their envelopes, and the winner is always the one who promises the fattest kickback, 10%, 20%. Sometimes as much as half the Project-S budget goes straight into his pockets and the pockets of his cronies. Remember that billion-peso flood control project in Pampanga? Half of it was a ghost. Canals were dug on paper, but never in real life. And while the people waded through waist-deep floodwaters, he and his friends were sipping cocktails in 5-star hotels, joking about how the people should just learn how to swim. At City Hall, his presence is a masterclass in performance art. He arrives in his perfectly tailored suits, flanked by a wall of bodyguards, grinning for the cameras and hugging the poor for photo ops. Serbisyo para sa tao, he'll declare, wiping imaginary sweat from his forehead for dramatic effect. Service for the people. But behind the closed doors of his office, those same people are nothing more than numbers. Votes to be bought, pawns to be moved on his political chessboard. He'd summon contractors, demand envelopes be passed under the table, and make promises he had no intention of keeping. Just make it look good for the press, he'd laugh, waving his hand as if the suffering outside was just an annoying fly to be swatted away. The mistresses get new cars. The children are sent to Ivy League schools abroad, though everyone knows they spend more time partying than studying. His political allies are flown to Singapore for conferences that are really just weekend-long gambling sprees. And yet, every 3 years, he wins. The money machine roars to life. Sack after sack of cash flows into the barangays. Rice, noodles, and envelopes filled with crisp bills are handed out. It's all theirs, as long as their votes are secure. The barangay captains become his loyal soldiers, spreading his gospel like missionaries preaching salvation. And the people, starved for any kind of relief, take the money. They always do. How can you blame them when the gnawing ache of hunger is so much louder than the quiet voice of principle? He knows this. He counts on it. But you know what sickens people the most? It's not just the crimes. It's the arrogance. The way he laughs in people's faces. The way he jokes about his immense wealth on national television, flexing his Rolex watches, his Ferraris, his yachts in Subic. At private parties, he'd brag about how easy it is to play the system. The people are stupid, he'd sneer, puffing on a cigar that costs more than a jeepney driver's entire yearly income. They forget fast. Give them some money during Christmas, and they'll forgive everything. But beneath all that arrogant laughter, a storm is brewing. The whispers are getting louder. Anonymous social media posts have started to surface, exposing government contracts, sharing photos of his kids drunk and violent, telling stories from former maids who saw the dirt up close. His political rivals can smell blood in the water, but none of them dare to strike the first blow. Why? Because he has dirt on all of them too. They are all tangled in the same sticky, corrupt web. Cutting one thread could unravel the entire thing, bringing them all down. And that right there is how he stays untouchable. The gossip never stops. In sari-sari stores, at tricycle terminals, on crowded jeepneys. His name comes up like a bad taste in your mouth that you just can to wash out. Ay, siya na naman, people will mutter, as the news reports yet another billion-peso project being delayed. Some curse him under their breath, some just sigh with resignation, and many just shrug as if to say, what else is new? In a country where justice is often for sale to the highest bidder, he's just another kingpin sitting on a throne made of stolen pesos. But even kings can fall. The whispers hint at it. You can feel it, like tiny cracks forming in a massive dam. One day, the people will find their collective voice. One day, the stories told in hushed tones will burst out into the open, a roar that can't be silenced. And when that day comes, no convoy, no mansion, no mistress, and no mountain of money will be able to shield him from the fury he has sown for so long. But for now he laughs, he feasts, he sins, and the Philippines bleeds quietly, while he lives like a god who thinks the entire world is his personal playground. Thank you so much for watching. Stories like these need to be told. If this resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps more than you know. Stay safe and stay aware. The cafe on the corner had fallen quiet. That storm of events had shaken their once peaceful little circle, you see. The regulars, who used to gather here for lattes and light chatter, now leaned in close, their voices hushed, always checking who might be listening over their shoulder. But the stories were still flowing, stronger than ever. They were thick with speculation, heavy with detail, and seasoned with that special kind of spice only a good scandal can bring. Everyone thought they knew how the saga of Clara, Mateo, and Elena would end. But the truth? It was still unfolding, twisting in ways nobody saw coming. The gossip observers, those ever-present narrators of our little neighborhood, they weren't just bystanders anymore. Oh no. They had become chroniclers of betrayal, love, ambition, and downfall. From the barista who overheard tear-filled phone calls to the old man by the window, who never missed a single detail from his watchtower, to that clique of office workers who turned this cafe into their daily gossip headquarters. Each one held a piece of the puzzle, and when they put it all together, it painted a finale that no one could stop whispering about. Clara was the first to disappear. After that huge blowout in the plaza, the one everyone pretended not to watch but secretly recorded from about 10 different angles, she just vanished. No moving trucks, no goodbyes. One day she was there, the next, her curtains were drawn, lights out, mailbox overflowing. Some said she'd fled to another city, trying to escape the humiliation. Others swore they saw her late at night, boarding a bus with just a single suitcase. But the juiciest version, of course, came from Mrs. Rosario, the retired teacher with a PhD in neighborhood drama. She claimed Clara hadn't left willingly at all. She was forced out, pressured by Mateo's betrayal and Elena's silent war. True or not, the mystery just added more fuel to the fire. Mateo, meanwhile, was doing his best to play the victim. The once proud architect, with his crisp shirts and polished shoes, now looked defeated. His shoulders were slumped, like he was carrying the weight of his own terrible decisions. He'd tell anyone who'd listen that he never meant for it to go this far, that Clara had grown cold and distant, that Elena was just a mistake he couldn't undo. But nobody was buying it, not really. To the gossip observers, he was the classic villain hiding behind a fragile ego, too weak to resist temptation and way too cowardly to face the consequences. The office workers at table 3 would openly mock his attempts to save face, imitating his pitiful expressions until the whole cafe would erupt in laughter. "Oh, poor Mateo," they'd snicker, caught in a web of his own making. But Elena was the real storm no one saw coming. Some painted her as the villain, the seductress who dangled her charm and stole a man who wasn't hers for the taking. But others pitied her, saying she was just as trapped in this mess as everyone else. She started moving through the aftermath like a ghost. No more bright dresses, no more confident strides. Instead, she'd appear in muted colors, her hair pulled back, her eyes fixed on the floor. The moment she walked in, the gossipers would fall silent, their eyes darting to catch the tremor in her hand or the twitch of her lip. Yet beneath that quiet exterior, you could feel something smoldering. Was it regret, or was it defiance? Nobody could quite agree. The grand finale didn't come with shouts or slammed doors. It came in whispers, and naturally it all went down in public, because scandals this big never end in private. It was a Thursday evening, and the cafe filled up unusually fast, as if the whole city sensed the final act was about to begin. Mateo arrived first, dragging himself in with that desperate look for sympathy. He ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and sat alone by the glass wall. A few minutes later, Elena entered. Her presence was like a ripple in still water. She didn't look at him, not at first, but her silence was louder than any argument. And then, Clara. Yes, Clara. Against all the rumors of her great escape, she returned. She walked through that cafe door like she'd never left, head held high, her expression completely unreadable. The entire cafe let out a collective gasp, a chorus of disbelief that made her lips curve into the faintest, most chilling smirk. She wore no makeup, no dazzling outfit, nothing to suggest she was seeking attention, but in that moment, every single eye was on her. The confrontation wasn't what you'd expect. No one threw drinks, no voices were raised. It was the stillness that was so intense, the way Clara's gaze locked onto Mateo's from across the room, pinning him in place like an insect under glass. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating, until Elena shifted in her seat, unable to bear the weight of it all. And that tiny movement broke the spell. Clara's voice, when it came, was calm and sharp. "You can have him," she said, her words slicing through the air like glass. "But understand this. Men who betray once will always betray again." The whole cafe shivered at the cold, hard truth of her words. Mateo tried to stand, to argue, but his words just collapsed under her stare. Elena looked down, as if the floor tiles offered more comfort than any defense she could possibly muster. And just like that, Clara turned and walked out, leaving behind nothing but the echo of her heels and the lingering taste of finality. The gossip observers, well, They couldn't help themselves. Phones were buzzing, group chats were exploding, TikToks were being made before Clara had even turned the corner. Some hailed her as a queen who had reclaimed her dignity. Others pitied Elena, doomed to inherit a man already rusted with betrayal. And Mateo? His name became a punchline, a warning, a ghost of a man forever trapped in the whispers of the cafe. By the next morning, Clara was gone again, and this time it was for good. But her story lived on. The cafe regulars told it like folklore, each retelling growing a little spicier, each detail a bit more exaggerated. Mateo tried to rebuild his life, but no one ever looked at him the same way again. Elena stayed, quieter now, her fire dimmed. Some say she and Mateo stayed together. Others claim she left him too. But honestly, the truth hardly mattered anymore. What mattered was the lesson, the spectacle, the absolute thrill of having witnessed it all. Because in the end, that's what gossip does. It turns ordinary people into legends, carving their mistakes into the history of a place. Clara, Mateo, and Elena might have just been three people caught in a messy affair. But to the observers, they were everything. A drama, a tragedy, a comedy, and a morality tale, all rolled into one. And the ending? It wasn't really an ending at all. It was just the beginning of another chapter of whispers, because as long as people gather in that cafe, their story will never truly die. Thanks so much for watching and being a part of this story. If you love tales like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.